wondered what happens when, your ethical intentions, trying to do the right thing, just collide head-on with a system that just doesn't get it?
Right, and that system may be blinded by really outdated ideas or just a total lack of technical understanding, ends up punishing the very person trying to help.
Exactly. Today, we're diving deep into a story that forces us to confront that exact scenario. And it's a narrative that, honestly, will challenge how you think about justice, technology, and just human resilience. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources, articles, personal accounts, legal documents, you name it, and we really dig in to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights, all to give you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed.
And our focus today is, well, it's an extraordinary story, sometimes unbelievably absurd, actually. It's the story of Alberto Daniel Hill, an internet security expert from Uruguay.
Alberto became, sort of infamously, the first person in his country ever imprisoned for a computer hacking crime. But here's the core of it. It's a crime he absolutely states he did not commit.
And the details, the actual facts of the case we've looked at from his sources, they really seem to back that up strongly.
Yeah, this isn't just about code and firewalls. It's really a powerful story about the human cost when information, or maybe the lack of information, gets mishandled, twisted, even weaponized. So our mission here is to unpack Alberto's own sources, his personal accounts, those candid interviews he gave, the frankly bewildering legal documents from this whole ordeal. We want to pull out the critical insights for you.
Give you that shortcut to understanding what is a really complex case, but also a deeply human one.
Right. And share some surprising facts, maybe some revelations that'll keep you hooked. We're really here to help you understand what's most important in the material Alberto himself shared and, what we can all maybe learn from what he went through. Okay, so let's pull back the curtain a bit on Alberto Daniel Hill. Who is this person?
Oh, as you said, we're talking about someone deeply, deeply embedded in cybersecurity from, like, a really young age. A genuine expert.
Yeah, this isn't some, weekend hobbyist. This is a pro.
Absolutely. He's been a PMP, Certified Information Security Project Leader, since 2011. That PMP, Project Management Professional, it's a big deal. It shows he can manage complex, sensitive projects, exactly the kind you find in security.
Okay.
And he also holds a Cybersecurity Fundamental Certificate, the CSX, from ISACA. ISACA is like the Global Association for IT Governance Pros. They even gave him platinum membership recognition.
Platinum, wow.
Yeah, their highest tier. It shows long-term dedication, real expertise. And on top of that, he's been a volunteer with OXP Uruguay since 2012.
OSP, right? The Open Web Application Security Project. They do crucial work in making software safer.
Exactly. So this isn't just a list of acronyms. It paints a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone whose whole career, whose whole ethical framework was built around protecting digital systems, making the online world more secure.
That background is so important, isn't it? It's not just about the certificates, though he clearly has those in spades.
Right. His journey started way back. He got his first computer, a Sinclair Spectrum Plus, when he was just 10.
Wow, a Spectrum takes you back.
Doesn't it? And it wasn't just a toy for him. It was like a gateway. By the time he was 14, he did what he considers his first real hack. But not malicious at all. He modified a soccer game, Emilio Butragueño, tweaked the code. The amazing part, he actually got his version published in a Spanish magazine.
No way, as a teenager.
Yeah, incredible, right? It just shows that innate curiosity, that drive to figure out how things work, how they can be changed or improved.
Definitely.
And while he did get a computer engineering degree back in 2003, he's very open about the fact that he learned almost everything truly practical about security, about hacking, completely on his own.
Self-taught.
Totally self-taught.
Yeah.
Just relentless curiosity, huge patience, the kind of traits that define a lot of innovators, ethical or otherwise.
Makes sense.
And today, he's known globally for his expertise in blockchain cryptocurrencies, especially the security side. He's spoken at major international security conferences. His credentials, his legitimacy in the field, they're solid.
Okay, so that foundation is absolutely critical because it establishes his credibility, deeply credible in the cybersecurity world, which makes what happened next just so perplexing and tragic.
It really does. Here you have someone who understands the ins and outs of digital systems, whose career is built on finding weaknesses and fixing them.
Right, making things safer.
Exactly. So how on earth did this ethical, highly skilled professional end up at the center of a supposed crime that, by all reasonable accounts, just wasn't a crime.
It's baffling, the whole ordeal, the thing that just shattered his life. It started really simply. October 2014, he's just visiting his girlfriend at the time, and she asks him to check something on her medical provider's website. Circulo Cattolico.
So normal, everyday request, right? Check some information online.
Completely mundane. But what happened next was anything but.
Yeah. Within, and he emphasizes this, literally 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Alberto found he could log in as an administrator, using the most basic default credentials you can imagine. Username admin, password admin.
You're kidding! Admin. On a medical provider's site.
I know. It wasn't some sophisticated hack. It was just a glaring, almost laughably basic security failure. Like leaving the front door wide open, key in the lock.
Unbelievable. And what could he access?
Full admin rights. So theoretically, he could get into and change hundreds of thousands of patient records, highly sensitive health data. He could add new patients. He could even dig into the company's private financial reports.
Wow. The potential for harm there is just astronomical.
Massive. He described it as a solid 10 out of 10 vulnerability, affecting maybe 200,000 people, a huge chunk of Uruguay's population.
So his reaction must have been immediate, given his background.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Textbook ethical response.
Yeah.
He instantly grasped how serious this was. Literally within 5 minutes of finding it, no hesitation, he sent an email to the Uruguayan CERT, their National Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT, at cert.ri.
Okay.
And his email laid out the vulnerabilities clearly. And crucially for transparency, he included his own IP address, showing exactly where the access came from.
So completely upfront.
Totally. And get this. Less than 2 hours later, he gets a reply. They confirmed the vulnerability was real, and yeah, it was a big concern.
Okay, so CERT acknowledged it.
They did. So for Alberto, at that moment, he felt like, okay, duty done. He acted responsibly, flagged a massive risk. He expected they'd fix it, and he genuinely just moved on. Believed that was the end of it.
Which is exactly what responsible disclosure is all about. Pure and simple, protect the data.
It's truly compelling how fast he acted. I mean, this is exactly what the cybersecurity community preaches. Prioritize safety, report responsibly.
He could have done anything with that access, right? Sold data, caused chaos.
Anything.
Yeah.
But his documented action was to alert the authorities. He genuinely thought he was helping, that the problem was solved. But well, the story obviously doesn't end there.
No, it takes a much darker turn. Because that wasn't the end, was it?
Not even close. A year later, this is 2015 now, just out of professional curiosity. You know how security folks are.
Always tinkering, always checking.
Exactly. He decides to check the Circulo Cattolico site again. Just wanted to see if they'd actually secured things.
Please tell me they fixed it.
Astonishingly, no. In just 15 minutes this time, he found he could still access all sorts of information. And this time, it wasn't even the admin thing.
What was it then?
He found he could completely bypass authentication just by changing a number in the website address, the URL. Like, change a 1 to a 2 in the address bar, and boom, you see a different patient's record.
Wait, so anyone could just cycle through patient records without logging in?
Potentially, yes. Anyone with a web browser. No technical skill needed beyond changing a digit in the URL. It was another massive hole.
Oh my God.
And again, within 5 minutes of finding this, he reports it back to the CERT. With even more detail this time, he just wanted them to secure this incredibly sensitive data.
This second discovery, though, it raises huge questions. Why wasn't it fixed after the first report a year earlier?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It points to a massive failure somewhere, either the company or maybe CERT's follow-up or both.
And it brings us to something you mentioned earlier, a really crucial piece of context from Alberto's sources, the law itself.
Yes, this is fundamental to the whole tragedy. At that time, Uruguay's criminal code, their penal code, it just didn't specifically define things like hacking or unauthorized computer access as distinct crimes.
How did it view it then?
The law treated leaking confidential info pretty much the same way, whether you photocopied physical documents or access to computer. Alberto described it perfectly. The law felt stuck in the 1900s.
So no specific laws for cyber intrusion, good or bad intent.
Exactly. No nuance. It was a legal vacuum just waiting for a disaster like this.
So let's put this picture together. Alberto is acting like a model white hat hacker, doing exactly what the security community applauds. Reporting serious flaws, protecting patient data.
Diligently. Twice.
Right. Yet the legal system in his own country can't even properly define what he did, let alone protect him for doing the right thing.
It's like the whole system was just technologically illiterate.
Paving the way for the absolute absurdities that were about to just engulf his life. It's actually chilling when you think about how a system's failure to keep up with technology can lead to such injustice.
And the absurdity ramped up dramatically in September 2017.
Yeah, tell me about the arrest. It sounds surreal.
It really does. Picture this. Cold, rainy morning. Police show up at his apartment. He wasn't even there initially. He was out. He actually walked into the local police station later, completely unaware of what was waiting.
Oh, wow.
After a while, a call gets made. Interpol shows up. And suddenly, Alberto's arrested, handcuffed, taken to Interpol facilities in Montevideo.
And they didn't read him his rights, didn't tell him why.
Nope. Not initially by the local police. Blatant procedural errors right from the start. It was, as he said, just the first domino to fall in this long, awful chain.
What was his first reaction? Fear, confusion.
Surprisingly, his first feeling when they finally mentioned Circulo Católico was actually relief.
Relief, why?
Because his mind immediately jumped to his reports from years before. He genuinely thought, okay, they know I helped them fix their security. Maybe they need me as a consultant or a witness.
Oh, bless him. That hope didn't last long, I imagine.
Shattered. Very quickly. He realized, to his horror, they had no clue about anything. Didn't know about him, his background, his ethical reports, the real vulnerabilities he found. Nothing.
That must have been devastating, realizing his good deeds were just invisible or ignored.
Literally. And then came the interrogation at Interpol. 2 hours.
What did they accuse him of?
They hit him with it. Did you send an email demanding Bitcoin for not leaking medical records?
Whoa. Extortion.
Exactly. He denied it, of course,
Right.
vehemently at first, clung to the truth. But under intense psychological pressure, relentless questioning, intimidation, and crucially, threats. Threats that they would go after his mother, his ex-girlfriend.
Oh, no. That's coercion.
Absolutely. His resolve just broke. To protect them, the people he loved, he confessed. Confessed to sending an email he never sent.
A false confession, extracted under duress.
Precisely. A horrific choice forced on him by a system seemingly focused on closing a case, not finding the truth. He talks about that agonizing decision, protecting family overriding everything else.
That moment, the coerced confession, it just highlights such a massive flaw, doesn't it? Confessions under duress are just not reliable.
Not just unreliable, they fundamentally compromise justice. And what Alberto's story really shows is how, when investigators don't understand the tech, they might actually prefer a confession, even a false one, because they don't get the real technical evidence, or often the total lack of it.
So the lack of understanding actually fuels the injustice.
Exactly. The system defaults to the easiest story, even if it's wrong. It's a total breakdown.
And the investigation itself, beyond the confession, you said it was farcical.
Oh, completely. Marked by just shocking incompetence and a fundamental inability to grasp technology. Get this. Circulo Católico, the medical provider he tried to help, their evidence was printed firewall logs.
Printed, not digital files.
Printed paper logs. No digital originals. No chain of custody established. No verification they hadn't been tampered with.
That's basic digital forensics. Rule number 1 is preserve the original data.
Completely ignored. Alberto rightly said it's like printing random phone book pages to accuse half the country. It was just a sign of the sheer incompetence to come.
What about the search of his apartment?
Equally telling. 3 Interpol officers show up, clearly unprepared, clearly out of their depth with the tech. They were visibly surprised, almost overwhelmed by the amount of gear he had.
What did they take?
7 laptops, 5 mobile phones, microcontrollers, Raspberry Pis, tons of hard drives, even old stuff like 3-inch diskettes and an iOmega zip drive.
A zip drive?
Seriously.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. They didn't have proper evidence bags.
What? How did they collect it?
They used his own backpacks, his own cardboard boxes. Any hope of clean chain of custody, gone, instantly destroyed.
Unbelievable.
And to make it worse, they left behind over 30 hard drives and literally thousands of CDs and DVDs. They clearly had no idea what was important and what wasn't, just grabbed what looked techie.
It's here, the story really tips into the bizarre, right? The misinterpretation of everything.
Totally. It shows this predetermined narrative they had. This is what a hacker looks like. This is what a hacker has. And everything, no matter how innocent, got twisted to fit.
Like the Bitcoin thing.
Exactly. He had Ledger Nano S hardware wallets. He was actually an authorized distributor for Ledger, the French company, secure devices for crypto. And he had a few physical collectible Bitcoin coins, just novelties.
Okay.
The police genuinely thought the physical coins were actual Bitcoins, like proof of guilt.
They thought the metal coins were the cryptocurrency.
Yes. He had to try and patiently explain that no, Bitcoin is digital, it's not illegal, and these are just collector's items or legitimate hardware. It was like talking to a wall.
Wow. What else did they misinterpret?
Oh, it gets better. They found over 100 blank magnetic stripe cards and a card writer reader.
Okay, that looks suspicious on the surface.
Right. They immediately jumped to carding cloning credit cards. Big headlines in the media followed. Hacker also cloned credit cards. But he was a legitimate distributor for Euclid debit cards, a totally legal crypto payment system. The blank cards were for that business. They never found a single fraudulent card, zero evidence of actual carding.
But the damage was done by the accusation and the media.
Instantly. Trial by media, reputation destroyed before any facts came out in court.
What about the cash they found? You mentioned euros and dollars.
Yep, 8,000 euros, 1,400 US dollars plus local currency, treated as inherently suspicious. Why does he have cash?
His explanation.
Perfectly legitimate. It was cash from his local Bitcoins business.
Yeah.
He legally bought and sold crypto for people who preferred cash deals. Again, just a complete lack of understanding of legitimate, non-traditional finance.
And the USB killers. Those sound ominous.
They do, but they're standard tools for security pros. And even government agencies use them. They test surge protection by basically frying electronics. He actually warned the police, don't plug those in.
Did they listen?
Apparently not. They later displayed them as scary hacker evidence, totally clueless about their real purpose in testing hardware resilience.
And the anonymous mask?
Yes, the piece de résistance. A plastic Guy Fawkes mask, the kind you see everywhere. Found in his home. Presented as definitive proof of guilt.
Just because it's associated with anonymous.
Pretty much. It fit their visual cliche of a shadowy hacker. It's just textbook confirmation bias. Judging an expert by his professional tools and a pop culture mask.
This level of technical ignorance, this confirmation bias, it had devastating real-world consequences for him, didn't it? Especially with the crypto.
Absolutely dire. Irreversible consequences. Remember those seized mobile phones? One of them had the two-factor authentication, the 2FA, for almost all his online cryptocurrency accounts.
The keys to his digital kingdom, basically.
Exactly. And despite him repeatedly offering the PIN-ins, the passwords, offering to help them access the phone safely to secure his assets, the police just refused.
Why would they refuse?
Inexplicably. Maybe ignorance, maybe suspicion, who knows? But they refused. And worse, the phone stayed on, connected to Google for days after seizure. His WhatsApp, his Telegram accounts were accessed.
Oh my God, so what happened to his crypto?
He lost millions, millions of dollars worth. Because the exchanges he used either disappeared during that time or he simply couldn't log in without his 2FA device to move or secure his funds.
How much are we talking?
He details losing 26 Bitcoin, 1,000 Ether, 10,000 Litecoin, 5,000 Ripple. I mean, a fortune. And it wasn't just speculative gains. It included a big chunk of his deceased father's insurance money that he'd invested.
That's gut-wrenching. Watching your life savings just evaporate because of police negligence.
And their sheer lack of understanding of how to handle digital assets. It's almost unbelievable incompetence with devastating personal impact.
Just beyond belief. And the absurdity doesn't stop there, right? The extortion email itself.
Oh, the email. This is one of the most stunning details. The alleged extortion email. The one threatening to leak HIV patient data unless 15 Bitcoin were paid.
Yeah.
It didn't contain a Bitcoin address.
Wait. The extortion email didn't say where to send the money.
Not a single Bitcoin address. How do you pay a ransom with no address? Alberto pointed this massive inconsistency out repeatedly.
And the prosecutor, the judge,
never questioned it. Never acknowledged it might mean the email wasn't a genuine extortion attempt. It was just accepted as proof.
And there was no malware found either.
Correct. No malware, no ransomware on Circulo Católico systems, despite the email's claims. It was an empty threat, a phantom demand, no way to pay, yet treated as concrete evidence.
Astonishing. And then there was the testimony from the CERT director.
Yeah, this one clearly hit Alberto hard, the very guy, the head of the National CERT, who had confirmed Alberto's original vulnerability reports back in 2014 and 2015.
To one who replied to his emails.
That exact person. He testified to the judge that he did not recall Alberto ever reporting any security issues with Circulo Católico.
What? But Alberto had the email confirmations.
Exactly. Alberto calls this the hit that hurt me the most. A total betrayal that just destroyed his credibility in court, painted him as a liar, coming from the CERT director. Devastating.
And Alberto later detailed other lies from the police.
Yes, he documented what he calls 13 lies. Things like falsely claiming they traced the email to 2 different IPs, bluffing about evidence they didn't have, lying about threatening his family, fabricating that he'd admitted to everything. It just paints this chilling picture of an investigation built on deception.
So when you piece all this together, the incompetence, the misinterpretations, the coerced confession, the questionable testimony, the lies, what does it really say?
It paints a stark picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
An investigation driven by confirmation bias, by a shocking lack of technical understanding. They had this cartoonish idea of a hacker, and everything had to fit, regardless of reality.
And this led straight to that trial by media you mentioned.
Absolutely. Destroyed his reputation in Uruguay before any real facts or proper evidence could be fairly presented in court. It's just a chilling cautionary tale of how easily someone's life can be ruined when competence and fairness are missing from the system.
Given this just parade of absurdities, these blatant injustices, you'd hope the actual legal system might step in with some rationality.
You would hope. But for Alberto, the nightmare was really just beginning. Despite having 0 criminal record, clearly being nonviolent, the judge sent him to prison. Preventive detention, February 2018.
On what grounds?
The reasons were just as baffling. The judge cited flight risk, even though he had deep roots, a stable life in Uruguay. And almost unbelievably, his high computer knowledge was seen as a way he might interfere with the investigation.
They imprisoned him partly because he was good at computers.
Essentially, yes, punishing him for his expertise. Alberto was just bewildered, especially since the supposed crime, unauthorized access, wasn't even punishable by prison time under the law back then.
That just highlights the core problem, doesn't it? A system totally unprepared for cybercrime, resorting to just disproportionate, illogical measures.
Exactly. They lacked the nuance to see the difference between malice and misunderstood tech, so they just used a blunt instrument because they didn't know what else to do.
How was prison initially?
He describes it as an absolute nightmare. Cold cells, immense physical and emotional stress. His asthma got much worse. And crucially, they cut him off immediately from his anxiety and ADHD medication.
Cold turkey. That's dangerous.
Incredibly dangerous. Left him confused, agitated, completely disoriented, adding trauma on top of trauma. He said he initially clung to this desperate hope it was all a mistake, that he'd be home tomorrow. That hope faded fast.
It's incredible how fast everything collapsed for him, but somehow in that environment he found a way to adapt, even find purpose.
It's remarkable. After that brutal first week sleeping on a concrete floor with violent inmates, truly terrifying stuff, he got moved to a slightly better cell.
What was better about it?
Marginally. It has small TV and, bizarrely, an old PlayStation 2.
A PS2. Wow. Small comfort, I guess.
In that landscape, it felt huge, he said, like a tiny crack of light.
And he had some kind of philosophical shift.
A profound one. He describes this moment of clarity. He realized he had a choice. Let prison destroy him, eat away at his sanity, or make a conscious decision. Decide to survive, emerge stronger, find resilience somehow.
How did he do that?
He adapted. He learned the prison rules, adopted this mantra, treat others the way they want to be treated. Simple, but powerful for navigating that hostile world. He also learned to sort of numb his mind to the constant trauma, the suffocation.
Like a coping mechanism.
Exactly. He found Stoic ideas really resonated, focusing only on what he could control. His thoughts, his reactions, not the external chaos. He says this mindset was crucial for survival, especially with alarmingly high suicide rates in prisons. It's a real testament to the human spirit.
And then the story takes another weird turn, right? His hacker reputation inside.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Sure.
Ironically, the very thing that got him locked up, his reputation as this hacker, actually earned him a strange kind of respect among the other inmates.
They saw him as a hero.
Some did, yeah. Like this mythical figure who understood the digital world, who challenged the system, and even more bizarrely, the prison authorities themselves.
The ones keeping him locked up.
The very same ones. Despite orders to keep him away from computers, they eventually asked him to teach basic computer classes. Microsoft Word, mainly, to nearly 50 inmates.
Wait, they asked the guy in prison for a computer crime to teach computers.
I know, it shows this weird, contradictory trust, recognizing his expertise even while punishing him for it. It's just incredible adaptability, how reputations shift, the strange paths resilience takes.
Just when you think it can't get stranger.
It does. So he eventually got temporary furloughs, 72 hours a week outside prison.
Okay, a step towards freedom.
Seemingly. A visitor, a guy named Javier, had shown interest in his case, seemed kind, helped secure the release, even gave Alberto a notebook and an iPhone to use while he was out.
That sounds unusually generous.
In retrospect, a huge red flag. Right. But when you're desperate for freedom, maybe you don't see it. It felt like a lifeline.
But it was a trap.
A cruel one. Javier eventually made Alberto an offer he could not refuse.
Which was?
Hack a Banco Republica,
Yeah.
Uruguay's biggest bank. Steal $200,000.
What?
And the plan Javier laid out was chillingly specific. Target high-balance accounts, especially people who are sick, terminally ill, maybe had lots of relatives, and crucially, leave a reasonable balance behind so the theft wouldn't be noticed immediately.
That's horrifyingly cynical, exploiting the vulnerable.
Calculated and cold-hearted. And Alberto was under immense pressure. Javier made it clear, implicitly, that his fragile freedom depended on doing this.
Did he do it?
No, he refused.
Multiple?
Multiple times. But the stress, the agony of that dilemma, compromise his ethics for freedom, or stand firm and risk losing everything again, it was immense. He describes crippling anxiety.
I can only imagine.
The stress became unbearable. He ended up over-medicating on his Xanax, accidentally overdosed, fell into a coma for 2 hours.
Oh my God. Was he okay?
He was found, rushed to the hospital, revived. Miraculously. But it just shows the incredible psychological toll, the impossible choices he faced.
What happened to Javier?
After Alberto courageously reported this whole extortion attempt to the prison authorities, Javier just vanished, disappeared, proving the insidious nature of the trap, a chilling reminder of the dangers still lurking.
Throughout all this hell, though, there was one constant support. His mother.
Yes, Alberto calls her the true hero of his story. Unsung, maybe? While he was locked up, she was fighting her own battles. Serious health problems, even a cancer diagnosis that she kept from him.
She didn't tell him.
No. Didn't want to add to his burden. She shouldered it alone while tirelessly working for his release. Navigating the legal maze completely on her own, no outside help.
The determination, her love.
Absolutely crucial, he says. For his survival, his eventual freedom, she fought battles he couldn't even see.
And that really makes you think, doesn't it? What's the cost, not just to the person wrongly imprisoned, but to their whole family, their support system?
Exactly. When the justice system fails so badly, the ripple effects are devastating.
Yeah.
Alberto's mother paid an unimaginable price alongside him. It's a testament to her strength, but also a stark reminder of the collateral damage of systemic failure.
So after 8 incredibly long months, he finally gets out. May 2018.
Released, yes, but on $10,000 bail. A sum, as he rightly points out, that would keep many innocent people locked up simply because they can't afford it.
And life after prison? Was it just back to normal?
Far from it. His life was shattered, lost his job, lost his long-term girlfriend, and a mental health impact. Severe PTSD, deep depression, scars he candidly admits he still struggles with every single day.
The injustice leaves deep wounds.
And the frustration continued. Back home in Uruguay, the local media wouldn't touch his story. They were still running with the police narrative, the trial by media version.
So he was silenced in his own country.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
Reputation destroyed. Painted as the worst cybercriminal, a total pariah. His truth just buried under misinformation.
But here's where he really takes control back, isn't it? Reclaims his narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Rejected at home, he made a crucial decision. Go global. Tell the world.
Ow.
He bravely turned to social media, especially Twitter. His handle is @Daniel Hill, and started sharing his story internationally. His raw, personal, harrowing journey.
Did people listen?
They did. It led to incredible opportunities. He was featured on podcasts like Darknet Diaries, huge show, focuses on true cyber stories, reached maybe 250,000 listeners globally.
Wow.
And he spoke at major international conferences. 35C3, the Chaos Communication Congress. His talk there reached like 650,000 viewers.
Incredible reach.
This act of just shouting his story to billions, as he puts it, became cathartic for him, a release. And his global platform became undeniable. It proved that sometimes, if your local system fails you, the only way to find justice, validation, is to tell the entire world.
And all that noise, that global attention, it actually had an impact back in Uruguay.
A massive impact, far from being in vain. The public pressure became undeniable. It forced the Uruguayan government to finally confront those systemic flaws in how they handled cybercrime.
What kind of changes happened?
Tangible, real changes.
Yeah.
Some former officials involved in this flawed case removed from their positions. A new, much more competent cybersecurity unit was set up within law enforcement, staffed by people who actually understand tech.
That's significant.
Hugely. And most importantly, his case became the direct catalyst for legal reform. As of January 1st, 2022, Uruguay has new regulations. They ensure tech crimes are investigated and prosecuted fairly, with proper guarantees, and crucially by competent people who get digital evidence and intent.
So his suffering directly led to a better system for others.
Precisely. If you connect that to the bigger picture, his case is just this powerful testament. Individual suffering, when shared bravely, can force systemic accountability, drive essential legal reforms for everyone.
And the irony is incredible. The man once imprisoned is now
Advising the Uruguayan Congress on digital rights, human rights, helping shape future laws, pushing for fair processes, user control, digital freedom. He literally went from victim of the system to an architect of its change.
It's truly remarkable. Despite everything he lost, the money, the time, the mental health toll, he seems to have found a different kind of success.
A renewed purpose, absolutely. And he says a deep sense of happiness. He emphasizes that the real gratification isn't money or revenge. It's knowing his suffering helped countless others by forcing a fairer system.
That's a powerful perspective.
He lives humbly now, by choice, but says he's full of feelings of love and gratitude. Calls the ability to affect change a beautiful gift, and his core philosophy is crystal clear now.
Hacking is not a crime.
It is the intent behind it that matters.
Exactly.
Really. He points out ethical hackers, criminals, often use the same tools, same skills, same curiosity. It's the ethics, the intent, that's the difference.
But he doesn't report vulnerabilities directly anymore.
No. He learned that lesson the hardest way possible. Now he says he might observe a flaw, note it, and then just quietly close his laptop. The personal risk is just too high after what he endured.
That journey, it's a profound shift, moving beyond personal loss to this larger purpose. Truly inspiring. Victim to architect of change.
And he's still deeply involved in tech's future. Web3, blockchain, crypto, decentralization, and artificial intelligence. He sees their potential.
Advocating for decentralization, shifting power back to users.
Passionately. Away from big tech, governments, giving individuals real control over their data, their digital lives. He also talks about privacy over security.
What does he mean by that?
Arguing that privacy shouldn't just be a policy or a law you hope gets enforced. It should be built into the technology itself. Privacy by design, intrinsically private, not just relying on rules that can be bent or broken.
His whole journey just exemplifies grit, resilience, incredible courage, transforming tragedy into this force for change, leaving a real legacy.
Absolutely, a lasting legacy.
Alberto's story really is such a vivid, stark reminder, isn't it? That sometimes the real crime isn't what the individual did, but maybe the systemic failures, the outdated assumptions that defined them. His journey forces us to look at that often blurry line between a security pro doing the right thing and an illegal hacker, in the eyes of a system that just doesn't get the digital world.
Right.
It makes you wonder what systems in your own life, maybe at work, in your community, even just in your own thinking, might be running on outdated assumptions, failing to see the whole complex picture.
Yeah, it's a crucial question.
We really encourage you to reflect on that, on the importance of critical thinking, questioning assumptions, really trying to understand the nuances of intent in this world that's so shaped by tech we often don't fully grasp.
Yeah.
As you go about your day, maybe think about Alberto's incredible, harrowing, but ultimately triumphant journey. Could your own curiosity, maybe misinterpreted, lead you down unexpected, even dangerous paths?
It's a sobering thought.
And maybe more importantly, how can we as a society make sure our systems, legal, social, technological, are actually ready? Ready to embrace the future, adapt to progress, instead of punishing the explorers, the protectors, the people trying to make things better.